you will see options.
Okay, so I'm recording. And there's no option for Facebook. Anyway, we have begun. Welcome. We are with Cornwall Art Hive in the artist's studio with Jade Thompson, and I now turn you over to Yafa Gawali, who will start us off.
Thank you. So I would love to welcome you all today, and especially, of course, Jade with us. And Jade, you have been so in the art field and supporting the Art Hive from the beginning. And from here, I want to welcome you. We're so happy that you're with us today to give us more information and energy from you, your art. And we have lots of questions for you. So thank you so much for being with us today. It's an option that we built together with Zayak to have visits to the artist studio in the pandemic, in the lockdowns. And I think we will go ahead using this magic Zoom links till we feel more safe to be connected and be together in small visits physically. So welcome, Jade. Thank you for your presence here. Thank you.
Oh, no problem, Yafa. Thanks for having me, Linda, Yafa, Richard, everybody. I appreciate your time and your patience. I'm kind of new to the Zoom thing aside from our little Art Hive meetings. So bear with me if I make any serious errors. All right, so I'm going to start talking today about my physical visual art, and then later on I'm going to lead into my digital art. So I guess first things first, I'll start with a bit of history. My name is Jade Thompson. I'm a non-binary, queer, multidisciplinary kind of say artist. My pronouns are they, them. I appreciate everyone respecting that and following along. I'm 28 years old. I was born in Ottawa, but lived in Cornwall and Akwesasne all my life. What else? I went to college in Brockville at the St. Lawrence College there, and I graduated in 2016. So that was a 2-year program. For a while, before I did college, I was actually at York University, and I learned how to oxyacetylene weld there. So that was really fun. I only did that for 1 semester though. It was too much for me at the time. So I was happy to go back to college and be in kind of more of a one-on-one environment because I found Toronto was very difficult for me. So I dream of one day like retiring to Merrickville or something. Or here, I don't know. Depends what Cornwall's gonna look like in the next few years. So I've got a long ways to go. Other than that, I don't have much to say about my history, except that I've always been painting faces. I've always been drawing faces as long as I could remember. I was always super, super competitive in any school project involving art. I would always, even in grade 2, when you're like 6, 7 years old, I tried to master it early, and that led to a lot of frustration. But it also led to me putting in the work. So that is the most important part about being an artist, is like giving yourself the motivation. You have to find it out of nowhere, whether it's you looking at really nice pictures online, going to galleries, what have you, getting new art supplies. You put in the work and the results come with it. So it did take, well, I'm 28, so it took, I don't know, about 27, 20, I don't know how many. When do you start drawing? When you're 2, 3? I've been drawing as long as I can remember. And drawing faces and doing that kind of, that artist visualize, where you look at something and you see its shapes, you see its colors and tones and shadows and highlights. And you can adopt that. You can train yourself to start seeing in shapes and shadows. It's just coming with looking at something and trying to replicate it. So a lot of us, when we start off, we have this image in our head of what we want the final product to look like. And oftentimes it doesn't get there. But I think the most important part about being an artist is just trying and trying and trying, because there's no perfect. There's only the best you can do at the time. And you can always do better. You can always do worse too. So I just want to show you an example of my portrait drawing. So this is Lincoln from the band Said the Whale. They're from Vancouver. So they're Canadian locals. See how it's all comprised of many different lines and textures and shadows. And we have, you know, the hint of fabric folding, the hint of hair curling, more of a hint at the hair because I did flesh that out more. But you can see how with the face, I'm narrowing this face down. It was a still from a concert they were doing live. So I took a screenshot and then I pulled it up on my phone and I said, this is what I'm going to draw. Here's how I'm going to do it. And you build it up. You build it up until you see something you're happy with. So that doesn't come right away, of course. It takes years of trial and error and not knowing what you're doing at first. But then there's people like us who have a few years under our belt and we're just here to help. No one wants to be that snobby artist, right? You want to open your arms to everybody learning a little bit from you. So I'm really happy I could do this today. What else? I'm sure everyone would like to know about the big painting in the background. So that's actually a 2013 original. It was just before I had gone to college. So I think I started college in 2013 or 2014. And that is mostly watercolor, believe it or not, on canvas. I didn't prime the surface with any particular type of ground. So there's this thing you can buy. I learned about it in college. It's absorbent ground. And that's a kind of paste. It's almost like a modeling paste, but you paint it over your surface and it can turn any surface into a workable paper-like texture that will absorb watercolor or gouache or anything that kind of sticks to paper, inks, etc. So I didn't use that, but I found the drippiness of the acrylic. It's not acrylic, it's on watercolor, sorry. The drippiness of the watercolor, how it didn't soak in to the painting, it kind of sat on top. And I played around with a lot of water, with a lot of textures. And then I started seeing what I could do with it. And I'm like, okay, faces. I love faces, but I like a comic version of a face too, as much as I love creepy stuff. Not that creepy, but enough to get you thinking. I like art that makes you think. So this is not something I'd usually be doing in terms of my commission work. So I can talk about that for a bit. But this was mostly based on Carolita Gapuita, and she's called the Lily of the Mohawks. She was deemed a saint, I guess, and she wasn't for a long time considered a saint, but when she was canonized, I think the word, she's become more known worldwide as a healing icon. I guess an icon for the love of Christ. I'm not religious myself, but a lot of my family, a lot of the people around me, especially not her last name, they know about Carolita Gapuita. And Gatali, it's spelled Kateri, Gatali. She's always got a kind of role in my life. Like if I wasn't hearing about her, I was seeing images of her everywhere. My grandmother had things all over the house with her face on it. In fact, I have a sticker in my window, one of those stained glass stickers of Gatali. And you don't need to believe anything to recognize that she lived a hard life. When she was young, she had smallpox and she lost a lot of her family and she went through many hard things. And she died, I think, maybe the age of 23 or something. Very sad. But she was in our area. She lived in the Mohawk Valley and then she eventually made her way to Montreal area. And that was, I think, it was just when the Jesuit missionaries and the missions were starting. So I don't know, I can't give the exact date of her birth. I'm sure a quick Google search would pull it up. But she inspires me a lot, to be honest. There's not a lot that doesn't inspire me. I find inspiration in a lot of things, But her story, her plight, her sadness, I related that a lot with myself. And not so much that I'm a saint, but that we all struggle with these kinds of things. So I'll talk a bit more about my commissions now. I typically do drawings such as the one I showed you earlier. I could do them stylized, or I can do a more realistic fine pen with cross hatching, stuff like that. What else? What else? So mostly faces. So I do loved ones, particularly people who have passed on and want to be kind of commemorated or just honored, I guess, in terms of a visual art piece. I do a lot of that. I do a lot of paintings of people, whether it's girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, wives, kids, people who've left us, again, people who were expecting. Like I did an ultrasound drawing before, that was pretty cool. I think the weirdest, strangest thing I've ever painted was probably an urn. That was a little sad, and I feel a little attached to every person I paint. There's something about the relationship between the artist and the subject. So typically I stare at the photo, my reference photo. I work from photographs, whether it's on my cell phone, tiny screen like this, or whether it's on an iPad or a computer monitor if I have a computer handy. Right now we're showing from an iPad, so forgive me if the quality's awful. I can't tell. But I'll stare at this face, and as an artist, as a person, as a human being, I feel like I connect with that person. If they're not here, if they're not with us anymore on this earthly plane, I feel like I knew them. And there's so many people who come to me and want that loving touch and want that sense of brightness, that light into everything. So that's really, it's honoring, it's touching, and I really appreciate when I have people who choose to come to me for that kind of thing. See, there's anyone in Cornwall, in the area, online, people have such a broad scope of interaction these days, and you don't really get to see I mean, you don't get to see like a lot of people getting that in-person art as much as you did, because there's Etsy, there's all these online sources. People want to shop online, people don't want to shop local. I see there's a ton, I'm sure you guys have seen it too, there's a ton of people online that turn pet portrait photographs into elaborate paintings with doggies with suits on and everything. And I don't do stuff like that. I do work from photographs and try to produce a realistic painting, but I am not a realism painter. I paint a little bit like expressionistic. I like to bring bold colors into my works. I like to bring light into my works. Sometimes I like to add a mixed media accent, and that's really fun. So there's one I can show you guys right now. I'll just get up and pick that up. So you might have seen this online. This is an example I give of what my work can look like. So this lady is called literally Woman because she is the perfect, beautiful idea of womanhood and beauty and expression in my mind. I did this in college, so let's see. Here is 2015. It's about 16 by 20 with a couple inches rise. So this is actually on 2 layers of masonite. This was a college project, of course. You do your most adventurous work in college, I find, and I'd like to get back to sort of that kind of work. So I used wood glue and clamps, and I was able to glue 2 pieces of wood to the 2 pieces of masonite I glued together with clamps and wood glue. So then I was able to wire that, and it hangs on a wire. It gives a nice kind of leans off the wall, and I really like that because it's a deeper piece. So I'll show you, this is a mixed media piece that I love, love, love. It's a bit heavy. You'll see that I used bit of sandpaper with paint for the flower. I used thick yarn. I used tin foil and modeling paste for the hair that I painted black. Tons of modeling paste in this piece. You'll see that her eyes are actually popping off the masonite, as is her nose. I gave her earrings that were made with tin foil, so aluminum foil. And what else? I have a little gem, like a found object gem in her hair, just something from, I don't know, our Dean's or a thrift shop or anything like that. Something I wouldn't want to wear, but I would like my piece of art to wear. So it's fun that these little touches, they kind of add to the whole piece. And the patchwork of painting on her face was really just an expression of the light bouncing, the color, the shapes and shadows. And it's not so much as a hint on the subject matter, but more of painting that makes me happy. I like to experiment and do stuff like this. So a motif I would say that appears frequently in my work is the droopy eye bags. So if I'm ever, I don't know what it is about it. I don't know if it's because I'm a person with depression or what, but those eye bags feel so human. Something about seeing the deep lines under someone's eyes, something we always see in person, almost always, at least if the other person's tired. But you don't see it a lot in art. You don't see a lot of focus on these lines. So it was always something I kind of played upon and tried to enhance in my own work, whether it was a quick sketch, like a drawing of a person. And I'll show you guys some of my digital art. It kind of has that theme too. So we will get to that in a little bit. So I'm going to leave that until about, I don't know, maybe 2:30 to 40. So I'll put this one back. Also, there's a bit of embroidery floss on this one, so string that I glued on, and a bit of glitter paint. And there's some people that say, you know, glitter makes something not artistic, but I like to say it depends on the subject. Because some things can really devalue your work, but if it works, right? If you think it suits the whole subject and tone, I go for it. And I'm always happy. So let me
Can I ask a question?
Yes, absolutely. I'm so sorry. I didn't see your hand.
Okay, do you see? Okay, so Jade, I'm curious to know, as I told you, that I have a feeling that of course, you're so talented, and I was so surprised when I saw your work with oil. Like, you choose not to do the fruits and, you know, this basket of fruits sitting in the table, but you actually can if you want. So I wanted to speak a little bit with you about this ability that you're choosing not to do and what to do. And suddenly, when we had, I think, this maxi art, right? You surprised me with this amazing work with oil. For me, oil is really, really hard, and it's always non-stop process. I couldn't finish my painting in oil because it doesn't want to end, and I have this. It's me, like this work on non-stop. Point in it. So it's really hard, right, to control the hands. You can actually do this. Can you speak with me a little bit more about that? I'm curious to learn from you. What do you do?
I love that question. That's such a real valid question. In order to answer that better, just give me one moment. I'm going to run and grab an oil painting of my fiance. It's a face oil painting, one of the few that I have. Everyone knows Matt's my muse. So it hangs above my bed. So that is such a good question. So this actually hangs above my bed. I'll give you guys a good view of it.
Wow.
This is an oil painting, and it's not water soluble oil. It is, in fact, the real deal. Not that water soluble is any less valuable or beautiful. So you can see how they kind of have a different shine for each portion of the oil. The whiter, lighter beiges don't have that shine as much. So what was yours done? This would have been 2016, yeah. So you can see, I don't know, there's my signature. So I called this one Lion because he's got the most beautiful golden rich mane, right? And I can go over the process a little bit of when to stop. For oil paintings, it depends on how you feel about the subject matter. If you want it pristine, if you want these raw, beautiful details, you're going to have to do a lot of pre-work. The work before you get to the painting is important. So I did this one under the guidance of Bob Shackles at St. Lawrence College. I chose the subject myself, of course. I took photos of him to try and get a good reference. So working from a photograph is the best way to create a realistic piece. You need those shadows. You can't make it up. If you make it up, it looks flat. You might look out of proportion. And one thing I do, sorry, it's really dusty. To keep it in proportion, use a grid. Use a grid every time. You can get grid apps on your phone or on your laptop or iPad. You can make it a 2x2 grid, and that is honestly enough. It helps you get everything in proportion. In terms of keeping that light, fresh stroke, that when you want the painting to pop without spending 45 hours on it, you want to have a good idea of what you're doing. So do a small mini painting, or go into it knowing full well that you might mess up a little bit and you got to be ready to correct early. So as a painter, with oil specifically, I'll give a little oil lesson. You start by wetting your whole surface with oil. So what I use is linseed oil. It's expensive, but you only need a little bit. And then you only need a little bit, so you scrub your brush across. What I would use is something like this. Get them at any hardware store. They're like a softer bristle, but it's a real bristle. It's not synthetic. You can get synthetic ones, but I find for projects such as this, where you want crispy details, you're gonna want just this. It's just the easiest, softest thing to get it across. So you're gonna like scrub the oil into it, and then what I do is I look at it and see, is there any part that isn't shiny when I bend it towards the light? Because you can't put oil on a dry subject. It just, oil paint it'll crack and yellow, it can fall right off. You want to wet your whole base with oil. People use boards for oil paintings. This is done on canvas. It's not even a thick canvas because I was a broke college student, but I love this painting. I don't know if I would let it go. My fiance's used to it too. He looks at himself every day and doesn't care anymore. So what I would do is basically, once you have your little pre-drawing, you sketch out your face enough times or your subject that you're comfortable with it. You're not approaching it for the first time. So this is a long hauler. This is not so much a quick painting. I wish I had a photo example or the actual painting to show you, but I did some oil still lifes, basically fruits and vegetables for my friend Carly Rainey's garden. Now, she runs the Rainbow Farm and she's located in Cornwall and Long Sault, and everything's eco-organic, wonderful, no sprays. So I took a lot of inspiration because I often worked in her garden and helped out. And I took beautiful photos, and Carly took gorgeous photos of her own props. And she sent me these, and I was able to just pull it up on the iPad, paint a base color in acrylic. That's important. It's a shortcut. I don't know if anyone talks about shortcuts in oil painting. There's 2 shortcuts that I know of. So wire your painting before you start. Always, always, always wire it before you start, or you're gonna end up with like maybe dings on the front of the painting because you have to put it upside down to wire it or hold it awkwardly. You need to put a lot of pressure to wire your work. And as an artist, my biggest tip, wire your paintings from the get-go. If you know how, you'll know forever. it's not something you ever forget. And it really increases the value of your work. It increases the way people will buy your work. It increases gallery presence because galleries don't want unwired work. Anything you have, it needs to be able to hang on a nail or a hook. So that's one thing I learned early on. This is a pretty crappy wire job because I was just learning at the time. So it's quite loose. I do prefer the more taut now, the wire. So what I use, these are D-rings. You can purchase these at Michael's or Canadian Tire. They're awesome. So you put the design side up and then you screw them in. They come with the screws. And then you're going to string your wire through. So if this is this big, I would use from my hand to about here, that much wire. You center it between your two D-rings, which should always be 2/3 of the way up or higher, as long as you don't have the string hitting the top of the canvas, because then it's pointless and people can see your string and it doesn't properly hold it up. So that's a good tip. Pre-prepare your canvas before you start painting. So what I always do, I try to now as a knowing artist, what mistakes to make and how to avoid them. And shortcuts is do your base layer in acrylic. It'll save you so much time. And anything you leave white, per se, your base coat, that will shine through in the little specks of light, per se, that you leave in your painting. So I did a radish painting, a basket of radishes, and the grass was green all around the basket. So I decided to not do a green base, but I did like an orangish yellowy base. So anything that I didn't paint green over, you had these beautiful yellow tones. Oh, I wish I still had it. They popped out. Actually, I might have that one. They popped out and it was something that really gave that little extra. Because one of the big things I always learned growing up, you don't want any white pieces on your canvas if it's an acrylic or oil painting. The little white specks, it's one of the things that debells your work. You have to fill in every little speck. So doing that base coat of acrylic, or I wouldn't do watercolor because the oil may move it around, but anything that can dry to an untouchable surface like acrylic because it's plastic based, right? That's exactly what I would do. I would paint it in a similar color to what you're working with. Has to be light. I'd never ever do a base coat in black or anything like that unless you're trying something new and you know it might not go according to plan. So with oils, you wire it first and you do a base coat of acrylic. And a third tip, if you want your paintings to dry, I feel like this is a secret because I wasn't told this in college, but my number one tip, this baby right here. I will show you the bottle so you can all pick some up with your oil paintings. This is Winsor & Newton oil color. And that says, oh God, I can't read it, mediums. And liquid fine detail. This is a 500 milliliter bottle. I can't remember how much this would cost, probably at least $40, $50, but you can buy smaller bottles and this stuff will save your life. So I'll read the back for you. It says, speeds drying, fluid consistency, ideal for fine detail, glazing, and blending, resists yellowing, important, gloss finish, not suitable as a varnish. So you know this is a medium, so that's what you mix into your paint to like speed up the drying time. And this is a lifesaver. I actually learned this trick from Pierre Giroux, bless his heart. And I asked it on his, well, I don't know, years ago when I met him at a cafe. I said, how do you speed up the painting? I don't have space. I have a bachelor studio apartment. I don't have space to dry oil paintings unless I have a hook on the wall and they can just rest on there. And he's like, you don't know about liquid? I'm like, what's liquid? And he told me liquid from Winsor & Newton, you buy it at Michael's. So I looked up a few videos. What you want to do is put it in a container. I like to recycle containers. This is something you rinse and wash, but you don't throw it in the recycling bin. You keep it for your paint stuff. So I have little Sabra hummus containers. You can see that it's dry in there. It's got like a film over top, but the bottom is still wet. So I could peel that off, toss it in the garbage, and I'm good to keep working with this container. It does take a while to dry, but it's nothing like the time of your painting drying. Because like, look, this is a thick layer. This is me dipping my paintbrush in there to get more of the medium in case my oil paint's getting too thick and I need to thin it out a bit. You don't use that as linseed oil, you use a long linseed oil. So instead of putting linseed oil in your paint, what I do is I put this in my paint, use it like you would use water with acrylic, right? To kind of loosen it up, get it flowing better. And if you mix this into every single color, they'll dry in days instead of half a year to a year. It's amazing. It's amazing. Within, oh, I don't know, something like 48 hours, it's dry to the touch. It's tacky-ish, but it doesn't come on your finger if you touch it. I love this stuff. So you would use, I think, like 1/3 to a 2/3 ratio of paint versus this. So if I had, say, I always like to use a palette knife to blend with. My favorite palette knife, by the way, is the pie spatula one with a rounded tip. Something about that. Second favorite is probably this weird one. It's just really versatile and has that good sharp edge. But the pie one is my favorite for mixing. This one is Acryl Oil PK6 Japan. They always have nice wooden handles. I love the metal ones. Plastic's okay. I find plastic palette handles, they get gummed with paint. You can't easily scrape it off because the paint, which is plastic, adheres to other plastics. Wood is easier to clean. You see, I barely have any paint on it. And if I had a plastic one, it'd be looking gross. It's also better for the environment, I think, to use things that last longer. So I would say, yes. Sorry?
I'm just saying that I was learning how to use liquid, using it mainly for glazing. And I just kind of mixing the liquid directly with my oil. And I just put a very thin coat and just dry. And then I can build my color on my subject layer by layer. And I think what it does really benefit me is that you don't have to worry about choosing the wrong color because you just build on a lighter color, and then you want it to be a bit darker, you just kind of keep building it. And I think give a lot of depth to your painting, to your subject as well.
It's true, glazing does lend itself to a lot more depth. It literally creates depth in that you have many see-through layers and each has a tint.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't.
Oil,
I don't actually do that. I am more personally someone who would say that was an oil painting. Of course, you start with the darks because you can't go over darks with light. You can't go over lights with darks, or else they will peel and crack. As there's more, it's fattier. White paint, light paint, yellow. Let's see. So you'll want to start usually with oil painting. I'd say you start with your outlines. If you're going to do any guidelines, you paint them with a thin or thick brush, whatever you can load paint up on really good. So what I would do for that, for my initial layer, something like this. Like I like a long handle, so you don't have to commit to getting super close and fine. It makes you kind of feel a little more free with that. So you dip it in your burnt umber or raw sienna or anything that's like dark and see-through. So to make it more see-through, instead of adding oil, because I did my whole ground in linseed oil, I don't use oil until, I don't know, say varnishing, and I don't tend to varnish my paintings. That one, the one of my fiance, I did because I was under your guidance and you kind of gotta do what you gotta do, but I don't tend to varnish my paintings. It also confuses me and scares me, and I don't have enough experience in it, so I don't want to ruin my art. I'd rather just keep it. You can always varnish it years later. So the liquid, I just mix it in. If you want to thin a color out, like Linda said, you can do glazes and tints with it and literally make it the shiniest possible painting but that
Mhm.
glows, that has color kind of
Yeah.
pouring through the cracks and shape and form that
Mhm.
tend to be a little less defined, I would say, but
Mm-hmm.
more glowy. I like that, glowy.
Yeah.
I love liquid. I'm so glad I asked Pierre. I was like, how do you do your oil paintings? And not he has a good turnover rate as an artist, as in he can push out a lot of work, and I want to be like that. So I'm like, how do you dry your work? And he's like, I use liquid. So now I use liquid, and
Mhm.
hopefully other people will start using liquid, and it will spread. Because I find oil painting is just one of the most inaccessible types of art.
Jade,
Yes.
can you just spell the name of the product? I don't know whether I'm hearing liquid or liquin.
Oh, no, absolutely. Liquin. So it has an N on the end. So Liquin.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. I'm so sorry. That is
It's all good.
kind of confusing. Yeah, so that's available at Michael's, Desserts, anywhere that has lots of art supplies and oil paint. They will have this. I personally bought it at Michael's. Oh my God. Okay, if you could tell what year it was made, I would love to know, but I don't think you
I
can.
have another question.
Sure, Yaka. What's your question?
I was thinking about the art in these days and how artists are surviving through these hard days and hard times. And actually, we need this connection to actually, when I see your work, you inspire me. Even I do totally different thing, but I think it's important that we be able to see each other work, because it's the same thing when you write a novel, you need to read other novels, like, you know, like it's giving and taking and receiving, so you can as well produce. And I was thinking in this time, how did you survive with because I know you have been so concerned about going out and your house, which is totally, I can understand. What did you do to keep your art energy going? This is first. And second, do you have another job, or only you decided to be, I'm just an artist and this is what I'm going to do? I will not be a nurse or something else, or a cook. I'll just do art. Because I found it, for me, it's really challenging that I just do art. So I feel like I'm always in a challenge to create an event or to do something, because otherwise I don't work. If there is no opening, like in the lockdowns and in the pandemic that we all went through.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'll start with the second part first. I definitely survive as an artist. I am a full-time artist currently. I have tried to do regular jobs. I typically worked as a call center agent, either from home or in an office. That was my most prominent career choice, I suppose, in the last 28 years of my life. I otherwise worked at my grandparents' store, Sharon's Pantry, or at a piercing shop, or anywhere that I kind of felt like I could do this. But honestly, as an artist, I have a lot of anxieties. I have a lot of troubles. I have mental illness. It's hard for me. I don't think I can be truly happy if I'm not doing art. Even if I took a weekday job, that means I'm only doing art on the weekends or on evenings if I have the energy. I feel like I don't often have that energy. So yeah, I'm a poor struggling artist doing it full time. And I completely understand that you want to make a living, but most of my work comes through commissions. And I think people just want a quick, easy drawing or painting of a loved one as a gift. They're usually given as gifts. It's not often people will ask for a painting of themselves, right? Unless it's like a caricature or a quick sketch at an event like Art Walk. So I do struggle. It's not easy not having money coming in all the time. It's kind of like a freelance gig right now for me. I try to make as much time for my art as I can, but as I see it, most of the work has already been put in for me by me. So I bought many supplies over the years. It's hard to see, but I have a ton of brushes. I'm bursting at the seam with brushes because I take care of them, so you have them forever. I have lots of paint, but I go through paint really quick. But things I have that don't go through really quick, that will last, that are good in investing, this keeps your costs down, right? You want to have lots of paper on hand that's thick. You want to have like watercolor paper. A big saver for me is palette paper. I know it's not the best for the environment, but neither is washing your paint down the snake. I really like palette paper. So I always have 2 or 3 of these floating around. I'm not a palette person because then you have to clean the palette, and I'm lazy and I just want to get stuff done. So keeping your costs down means buying supplies that are high quality that you can thin out as you go, or you can just ask a higher price for your work because you're using, this is not for you specifically, but I mean in general, people as artists, the more money they put into their own work, the more they get out of it. So I found using extra thick canvases, wiring every single canvases, painting the sides of every canvas so it looks pretty on the wall without framing it. That makes it accessible for a lot of people. Yes, Linda?
How do you price a painting?
That's a great idea. That's like, how do you price a painting? How do you measure hours and hours and hours of time spent on a single face? That's a good question. Usually I try to get, oh man, I only price low if it's old. If I'm sick of looking at it, it doesn't bring me joy. It might not bring many other people joy, but seeing a low price is enough to entice anybody, right? So a lot of paintings I'll have go, if it's an old canvas, if it's something I did 10 years ago, I let it go for cheap because it's taking up space. It's weighing on my mind that I don't have enough space to get more. So I try to reuse a lot of old canvases. Paintings I did of people say that I've had a falling out with, I paint it over and I make something beautiful out of it. I just find you do what you have to do, and it's hard. It's really hard. Trying to get back to Yafa's first question, you were asking about not as my living as an artist and what I do as a job, but what was your first question, Yafa?
I was wondering how you survived in not receiving art when we have this lockdown, because I found it a little bit hard when I can't go to galleries or see other people work. So again, having the internet and opening for the world, yes, it was nice, but I always felt like being present in a gallery, seeing the artist themselves was inspiring me, even if they do something totally different than what I do. But it was inspiring and makes me feel like we can do this. We're going together and we will do that. Especially here in Cornwall, I have this, of course, we don't have much galleries and now we don't have any. So I was wondering how you feel about that, because I'm not feeling good. I feel like it's another lockdown when we don't have a lockdown, that we can see artwork, or even be in a gallery, be in a place, art center. It could take another year to get ready. What do you think? Tell me how you feel, because I'm worried.
All right, that's so honest of you. I love it. Very honest and open and forthcoming. It's true. We don't have much for galleries. We have studios that are kind of galleries, and that's mostly it. As far as I know, I have never myself been a big gallery shower though. It takes you out of your element. There's something to be said about people who can have so much work sitting around that they can pick and choose, this gonna go in gallery, this. Half the time, I have so many pieces in my back room. I have a little storage room. They are sitting with sides unpainted. Some of them aren't wired. They're not gallery ready. It takes an enormous amount of effort to go and make a series such as that vegetable oil painting series I did. You have to have decent quality canvas. You have to have the wiring, the sides painted, the framing, whatever. This is all prerequisites for gallery entry. I have never much been in a gallery except for as a passerby, like as a person experiencing the art. I let that inspire me. I take it home and I try to fuel my own work with that. But in terms of presence and getting the word out there and sales, the online aspect, I can't stress enough how important the online aspect is. I would not be seen or heard if it were not for Facebook and Instagram. Mostly Facebook, to be honest. I've been in online auctions. Sometimes you don't sell very much, sometimes you do. It's depending on how many people you can get engaged with the auction. It's so important. But I also sometimes here and there, if I have a new painting that I've done and I'm excited about it and I want to share that excitement with people, the best thing to do is post a few progress photos on your social media. So not just Facebook, but your Instagram too, Twitter if you have it, any sites like that. You gotta post progress pictures so people get excited with you. If it's something really big, like an event, see, like you're more familiar with organizing events and stuff, to a lot of people, you have to tease and hint and lead up to the big reveal. And that's what keeps people invested in your art. And it's the hardest thing sometimes is to roll out of bed and say, I'm gonna post a couple times on social media today, better put on my big person pants and type it out all pro and make sure I have all my details. Oh, thank you so much for joining, Liz. I really appreciate your presence here.
I have to see that from what I have observed lately, the online is really the way to go because it's the way to get your work out there, and then once you develop a follower, that's when you start getting commission.
That's
so
it.
They might not
That's
be able
it.
to see what you posted. However, they like the style and then they like the outcome, and you get a commission. I see like people like Kathleen, you know, Kathleen Moran. That's she get a lot of commission work, and because people follows her from seeing the work that she posted. So
that's exactly true. So the more people see your work, the more you'll get attention for it. So the biggest thing is Facebook for me because people can share it easily. With one click, maybe 2 clicks or taps of your finger on the phone, you can share an artist's work to your hundreds of friends. And we are all artists here. Richard's an artist in his own right, of course. But sorry, you need to connect with people for them to connect with you, and you need to have it accessible for connection. A big part about connecting online is posting regularly. I hate to say it, but algorithms are the future. It's just how it is. We don't have control of it. We're kind of at the mercy to the big guys up there powering up Facebook and Instagram and every other
gathering your seeds. That's all you can do. Just gather the seeds and you hope that it will get blown.
Exactly. You hope that they grow into something beautiful. But in the meantime, you're doing your best and you're trying to think of new ways all the time as artists. There are many platforms for us to try and make a buck. It's usually not quick. It's usually a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I can't tell you how many hours go into an acrylic family portrait. Usually I do 20 by 20, so about it's like 20 by 20 inches. And that will take easily, oh my God, with like 4 or 5 faces, that takes easily 30, 40 hours. And because each face takes hours and hours and hours to get the shading, the highlights, the teeth, the eyes. All that is really hard. And we are running out of time. We have another 10, 11 minutes. So I'm going to start sharing my screen. And I'd like to show you guys a little bit of my Procreate work. So I really, really hope this works. I am not the most iPad oriented. All right. So if I have share content, oh shoot, I'm not a host, so I can't share my content. Is there a way to fix that, Richard?
Yeah, I just changed the settings so that you should be able to share now.
Oh, great, thanks. Oh, awesome. So I'm going to do share screen, start broadcast. All right, so sharing the screen. So can everyone see my iPad okay?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Yeah.
That's excellent, thank you. So this is my Procreate. So Procreate is an app on the App Store. It's also available I'm pretty sure it's not just Apple products, but I think it's also Android. So Procreate is about, I think it's like $13 US or Canadian. So no more than $15, $16, and you have it for life. So Procreate comes with a lot of examples. These bottom 4, this one, that's not my work. I just want to let everyone know that. Everything else in here is my work. But when you buy the app, what I use with it is an Apple Pencil. It does come with a few gorgeous other artists' images, so you can kind of get inspired and see what you really can do with this app. And it's incredible. This is not a photo manipulation. This is a digital painting. I didn't do this, of course. I just need to say that. But I can show you some things I did do. So I have everything. You can select pictures and group them into folders by clicking many of these and then clicking stack at the top. So I will show you some of my work. First, for everybody watching, oops, there we go. I'm going to go into my new potential business card design, and I'd like to introduce everyone to my email and to my handle for Facebook and Instagram. So it's Jade Thompson Art if you want to find me. So I'll go into my animals first. So I can show you guys something funny. So I was trying to do an oracle deck. Just an example of what I could do. I would say this is for a potential client. She was looking for kind of oracle cards, like I don't remember what they're called. Anyway, lots of decks, probably about 50 to 60, 100 different cards. So this was my first try of a raccoon, and it was really dark. But you get an idea of the effects you can go with in this app. So we have tons of layers. I had an idea of what I wanted to draw. So I'll show you. You can deselect every layer until there's nothing left. That was my idea. I was like, how do I get something like that? So I'm turning on all the layers again. Background color, that's good. So you can make almost any image transparent, and then you can save it as a PNG or a GIF. And those are awesome for getting good quality online. So this was the third one I did. You can see how I kind of definitely went back to that base. So let me deselect and I'll show you my exact outline. So here it is. And images you can do in many different sizes, but the iPad or your tablet or what have you can only handle so many layers. So that's the thing. The bigger you go, in terms of the size of your project in pixels and inches, what have you, the harder it is to get a bunch of layers. And I can show you that right now. So when you click the plus sign in the top right, basically go to what kind of new image you want to create. And I don't usually work in CMYK. That's for print. That is a different kind of ink configuration or color configuration that is made for print. But usually I will work, I like the 6x4 or 4x6 photo. See, you can get it really big. You pinch out and in. I wish I could show you me pinching it. It's not just me moving the screen. But you can resize. You can literally drag and pull your fingers in a circular motion and it will change the rotation. So I can show you here. There's a whole bunch of menus, options to share. You can share animations, which is new for this app. I haven't worked with animations much. You can add text, photos, insert a photo from your camera directly. One thing that's really cool about this whole app is the time-lapse video. So I want to show you that. That is the best part. So it is so exciting to me as an artist that I have an instant video of start to finish what I did. So here are some images I've done with faces that weren't finished. This is the most recent one I've done. It's me. Just a comic kind of art. Here's Elliot Page. Really happy with that one. And I will show you this is one of the very first drawings I ever did on Procreate. And I did it of my fiance Matthew while he was looking down at his phone. And I always find him great practice because he's always around. He's in my space when I'm there and feeling creative. And I can just get inspiration from the simplest thing, him looking down at his phone, seeing the slope of his eyebrows and his nose and the beard scruff and the lines of shadow, the hair, you know, I see it all. And I just want to kind of replicate a little bit of that beauty. Oh yeah, I'm going to the wrong menu here because I'm nervous. So what I would do now, canvas, which is video, preferences, oh, no. Oh, it must be in there, canvas information. Oh, here we go. So it tells you exactly how long you've been doing this art too, which is really good for digital commissions. So you can see the date created and the date modified. If it's not, if it's a certain date between each other that you didn't touch this painting, say, oh, I spent so many days on this. So then you can go into statistics on the left-hand menu, and you can see exactly how many times you touched your Apple Pencil or your finger or your stylus in general to the surface. So 1,400 times for this one little drawing. And this drawing took about 51 minutes. So let me see if I can, 30 seconds. This is nice and quick. See if I can play it from here, if I'm getting the right option. Nope, that's not it. Sorry, guys. Let's try this. There we go. So I was messing around with the background a little bit, right? You're trying to get a feel for your tools. It's good to experiment with that kind of thing. And then I started laying in the basic base. One of the great things about digital art is that you can move it around. If you have a background that's separate on a different layer from your main art, you can just drag and drop that art. If you run out of space, we'll move it up a bit and resize your canvas. It's so much more, you know, it's easier to, I don't know, go with the flow in digital art. You can easily undo what you've done, whether it's a stroke, a whole color fill, or you can just reposition. You can change the values, the light, the shadow, the color. You can change to a whole different color, which you can see I just did. I just made it lighter pink than the pink I'd been drawing with. So that's really fun. I can also show you, I'm sorry, I can't see if anybody has questions because I'm on full screen, but I will quickly go through before we run out of time, a commission, and I'll give you a little secret on how I did this commission. Okay, we're gonna go in here, time-lapse replay. This is exactly how I did it. And yes, I traced, and I don't feel bad about it or guilty or anything. This is a personal project. And even if it wasn't a personal project, you can get results from tracing. Now you can't trace in real life because there is no way to just simply remove the image unless you're using tracing paper, a light board, a projector. What I usually do, if I don't have digital art, I use a grid, right? I use a 2x2 or 3x3 or a 5x5 grid, but I don't have that. So for this kind of work, I will trace so I can get the best possible representation of what I'm working on as an artist. So then I'm gonna see if I can speed it up a bit. No, I can't, sorry. So you're adding in the highlights, you're blocking out your colors. So this is a great example of me seeing colors and shapes as an artist, because I am pulling the very colors from the photo that I'll be working with, right? And then I'm filling in mass blocked areas of the photograph. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now. Hi, we're back. So I think it's pretty cool to get a little.
I'm muted. A quick question, Jade. If this program can work in any computer, or you need to buy like, you know, new laptop or something to make it work?
It is a light program. It's not a heavy full file program, but I think it is better to have with anything that is touch screen. I think you can buy it online for computer, but I think it is better integrated and more what it's made for to use with the touch screen, such as iPad. any Android tablet. You can do it on your phone. There is a Procreate for the phone, both phones, Apple and Android. It still costs money, but you buy it once and you're good for life.
You're good for life. So
Yeah.
is Procreate the name of the program?
Procreate, Procreate. So creating, like create, I'm going to create something, and then pro.
And then pro. Okay,
Yeah.
this was really helpful and encouraging to use more media and maybe designs. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing. And you're so
No,
generous with all the ideas, telling us everything about your work with open heart, and all the tricks and advices for the oil was really helpful. I promise I'm going to try again.
Yay!
And
I'm
I'll
so
share
happy.
with you. Yeah, I'm going to try again. And you're opening to not feeling guilty of tracing and just play with the program is actually as well calling and inviting for new experience. So yeah, let's make more designs and play with what we have.
For
And
sure.
time is over. It's already 3. So I would love to thank you so much for being with us today. And I hope we'll keep the connection and the archive will keep. I hope in the future, as soon as possible, we can host in-person events when you can please come and share more of your work. And of course, other local artists are totally welcome. And thank you, Jade, so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
me here. Hi.
Thank
Yes.
you, Jade.
Thank you so much. It's been a great presentation. Love it.
I
All
love
right,
being
so
here. Thank you.
we're
And
ending
see
in
you in
5.
person. We have another event in person, which is 11th of the month. It will be our archive in person again when we sit and create together very simple ideas and just get the community. And I think having like our local talented artists with us is really empowering the invitation. So please join us. It's 11th of the month from 1 o'clock, I believe, and we will share the event in the. Thank you, Richard. In the
I'll be there.
page.
1 to 3 in
Welcome,
Lamoureux
everybody's
Park.
welcome. Yes, please tell your friends, moms and kids. Everybody's welcome. Artists, maybe someone want to try art. This is the intention of them. The main intention from the archive to keep it open for everyone.
Okay,
All right,
so
guys,
September 11th.
we got to wrap this up. Any last words, Jade?
Thank you.
Visit my Instagram and Facebook, Jade Thompson Art, or Art by Jade Thompson. Just give me a search. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, everybody. Closing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.